And I'm Suzy, and this is the Coaching Cast. We are the No Nonsense podcast, chatting about the things impacting you at work right now, helping you to survive and thrive in today's workplace.
We discuss different topics each episode, sharing our ideas, hints, and top tips from our experiences of working in the corporate world, running our own businesses, and also being qualified coaches. We also try to have a few laughs along the way, because taking yourself too seriously is just boring. We really hope you enjoy listening. In today's episode, we're talking about the topic of personal energy and how it's linked to your performance. Whether you're working from home, in an office, hybrid, or on the go, we're going to offer you some top tips to help you with maximising your energy. So stay with us and enjoy. So before we get cracking into the discussion for today, Suze, which is all about personal energy.
Yeah.
I can imagine I'm going to enjoy this one. Tell me, how have you been?
I've been good, thank you. Guess what? I'm going out tonight.
What?
I know.
What? You're going? It's a school night, Suze? You're going out?
No.
My God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What are you doing? What are you doing?
I am going out. So I'm going into Manchester to watch the comedian Ed Gamble.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. At the Opera House, Manchester Opera House, which I love. It's a lovely theatre. And yeah, he's doing his live tour. Anyway, I'm going to see him. And then next week, I'm going to see Romesh in Manchester as well. I've got a week of comedian tours that I'm watching.
Hey,
I know.
that is so cool. Oh, look at you, Culture Vulture, getting out.
Culture Vulture. Yeah, and on a school night. I mean, who
and
would
on
have
school
even
nights.
thought?
Oh my goodness, you absolute rebel. So does that mean the old Steve, is he babysitting or is Steve going with you?
No, Steve is actually accompanying me on both of these visits.
Oh my God. Wow. So this is not just night out. These are date nights. God, you and Steve, 2 date nights in a week. Jesus. Wow. He's really stepping up. He's stepping up.
No, he's it's funny because actually I got him the tickets for Ed Gamble for his Christmas present. So it's actually his Christmas present, the one tonight. And then he got me the tickets for Romesh for my Christmas present, same Christmas.
Yeah.
But I tried to get tickets for Romesh as well. So imagine we could have been going to see Romesh twice within a week.
Oh, I love this. Look, so in sync. And you're both buying yourselves gifts to see comedians. That's cool.
Yeah,
I
do love a bit of comedy.
I don't think I've seen any comedy, to be fair. I was thinking, I don't know if I've ever gone to see a stand-up before.
Oh, I love a bit of live comedy. I've realised as I've got older, I really enjoy humor. It's one of my, definitely one of my values, but also the lightheartedness. I'm one of those awful people, you know, when something really serious happens and someone tells a joke or tries to lighten the mood, I'm one of them people.
Yeah, so am I. Humor's one of my key values.
Go and see him. I'm going to see Rob Beckett next year as well.
Oh God, your favourite.
My absolute favourite. I'm obsessed with 2 podcasts. We know what they are. Shag Married Annoyed. I love Rosie Ramsey, and Parenting Hell. I love Rob Beckett and Josh Whittaker on that podcast. It's my favourite go-to podcast when I'm walking the dog. And yeah, Rob Beckett's touring next year. So we're going to see him in Stockport next summer. So looking forward to that as well. So yeah, look at me. I'm old comedy circuit myself. Now going to watch these comedians.
Yeah. Inspiring. Yeah, I don't see comedians at all. It's not something I see. I don't know if you've got it or if you've seen it. Have you seen Namaste Bay on Instagram? No. So he's a guy called, I want to say his name's Rob Van. He's South African. He has a very Afrikaans name. It's like Rob Van something. I feel like most people here in South Africa have these kind of very extravagant names. Rob Van Vuren. He's Namaste Bay. You should check him out on Instagram. He's hilarious. He's very much taking the mick out of the wellness yoga.
Oh, out of people like me.
Self-healing industry. Crystals. You're not that bad, really. You are funny. How many crystals have you got in your bra today or your pants?
3.
Great. I mean, the fact that you actually are carrying your crystals is all that you need to know.
Always.
You should check out Rob Van
I will
Veren.
do.
I will send his link to you on Instagram. He is hilarious, but he's called the Namaste Bay, and he just takes the
Okay.
mick out of this whole wellness, like yoga. I've got a yoga teacher here in Cape Town. Yes, I am one of those, and she loves him because she loves how he takes the piss out of her and all her yoga mates. And they've actually gone to see him live here, but he did do some gigs in London as well. So he does come to the
Oh,
UK.
cool.
He's a comedian first and foremost. So this is like one of his personas is the Namaste Bay. But yeah, I should try and check him out for sure.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
well, our CBB should check him out as well. There we go.
Yes.
There's a little another tip for you. But I'll let you know how I get on the old comedy circuit next month when we're
Yeah,
recording.
absolutely. Yeah. Next episode, we want to hear how you enjoyed both of your comedy gigs. Cool. All right then. Great. Shall we crack on? We're going to talk about personal energy and performance today.
Okay, let's
Good.
do it.
Cool. Too often we take our energy for granted. We assume that if there's more demand, our capacity to meet it will just naturally expand. But if you often find yourself feeling tired or overwhelmed, you'll know that's not true. We're often told to manage our time, but managing our energy can be far more effective. Managing your energy lets you fully engage with whatever you're doing. If we're not intentionally finding ways to increase and renew our energy, we're depleting ourselves. If we're not getting stronger, we're getting weaker. This is the idea of author Tony Schwartz from his book, The Way We're Working Isn't Working. Tony Schwartz is the founder and CEO of the Energy Project, an organisation dedicated to helping companies and individuals achieve sustainable high performance by managing their energy more effectively. Schwartz outlines 4 primary sources of energy: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. By optimizing these areas, we can create a more balanced and productive work life. So, Suze, how are your personal energy levels today? How about all 4? How are all 4 being topped up?
Oh, what a question to start with. So, how are my personal energy levels today? I would say I'm feeling good, actually. I do feel pretty energized. So, in terms of my physical energy, I'd say my physical energy is pretty topped up. I did some exercise on Monday. I did some exercise yesterday, and I took the dog for a walk. So I'm feeling like I've moved. I've kind of released a bit of energy in that sense. So yeah, feeling good. My emotional energy, yeah, I'm feeling balanced. I feel okay. My inner critic isn't too loud today. That was not the case last week. My inner critic was like, what? On full blast volume. So I'll reflect upon that in a second. My mental energy, yeah, I'm feeling kind of like clear. I feel like I don't feel fuzzy actually today. So I don't feel fuzzy headed. I feel like quite clear around what I need to do, what I need to achieve today, how I'm going to do that. And my spiritual energy, I mean, you know me, I've got crystals down my top. Like spiritual energy, I can lean into this space very easily. Yeah.
I was going to say, we've just checked. So you've got your 3
We've
crystals.
just checked in on that one.
The 3 crystals are in
there. But this idea, I think, from Tony Schwartz is it's really, really interesting. So I came across this concept through my colleague and my brilliant friend, Sean Beck. So I'm going to give him a little shout out. So I work with Sean at his company, Inspire Ignite. And, you know, we do a lot of work on personal energy. And he introduced me to this concept in this book. So just to kind of recap, your physical energy is your physical health, your emotional energy is your emotions, your mental energy is your mindset, okay? And kind of, yeah, that clarity piece, and your spiritual energy is your why. So what is truly important to you, okay? And the way I always kind of look at this is, as we know on this podcast, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, Suzy, myself, I'm a very visual person, okay? So I literally see it as 4 like individual batteries, okay? So I've got Suzy's physical energy, Suzy's emotional energy, Suzy's mental energy, Suzy's spiritual energy. And what this book and this concept talks about is that by charging each of those batteries, so to speak, and topping them up, you know, it reduces our stress, our anxiety, it helps us to feel happier. And so within that, we become more productive, but also we become more energized. And that is what, that sustainable energy is what then creates, you know, high levels of performance on a sustained basis. And I suppose the other thing that's really important about this is that each of these 4 areas are not individual. Actually, you need to look at topping up each of these 4 areas, because if one is really low, then that will impact your overall energy level. So it's about mastering that balance of topping each of those 4 energies up. Sometimes in one go, but sometimes, you know, potentially not. So it's just about having awareness of that. So yeah, I feel good today, but I certainly didn't feel good last week, like I touched upon it. I would say that my emotional energy, for some reason, I came back from holiday, and I think because I'd allowed myself to rest, reset, regroup, I'd not been doing anything for work. I came back to a few like challenging conversations, and my inner critic was like full power. Like I had not really kind of like created anything or given myself opportunity to focus on my emotional energy. I'd gone straight back into stuff. I'd not worked out for like a week or so either. I'd been drinking probably a bit too much alcohol than I would normally, not been eating as well because I was on holiday. And so I found that kind of, I suppose, that slip away of structure, that slip away of routine also really impacted me last week. I wasn't feeling great about myself. I wasn't kind of releasing some of those anxieties and working on my mental clarity and working on my emotions. I hadn't had the crystals down my top for a week. So yeah, my inner critic last week was on full volume. Like it was hard. So I suppose the point of why I'm sharing that is around the impact that this can have on us and actually how this can kind of link together, and why it's so important to really think about how we're energizing ourselves, because we energize ourselves in different ways. And what will suit me will not suit you either.
It's so interesting what you talk about in terms of the challenge you had last week, because it really weirdly, quite eerily actually, mirrors my own week. So
right.
I'd gone away for a long weekend, so not quite a week off, but it was a long weekend to celebrate my 6th wedding anniversary with Dom.
Congratulations.
And thanks very much. Survived another year. And I'd taken Friday to Monday off, and actually we extended it slightly to Tuesday. And I think that weekend off was probably as well, like the time off was a bit of a culmination of like working hard, moving, juggling the moves, dealing with the dog moving. Like there was just a lot going on in the build up to that weekend away. So that by the time we took the weekend off, like I was so excited for it. I was really looking forward to it. And I know Dom was. And it was as though it was a bit of a climax of lots of events, lots of situations, probably a little bit, you know, a lot of stress in a way. And so it was a full on, like, I need to blow some steam here. And that meant I overindulged on the Friday with alcohol and food and total lack of sleep as well, because we just partied too hard that first night. This is a bit of a pattern with me and Dom as well about our wedding anniversary. I don't know why when we hit our anniversary, we behave as though like we literally have survived a year together. I mean, it really isn't that bad, but I don't know why we seem to like party so hard every anniversary. You know, 6 years, yeah, okay, it's an achievement, but I mean, it's not that like groundbreaking. God knows what we'll be doing at like 25 years, 50 years. I was so poorly on Saturday as a consequence of partying too hard on the Friday. But that then continued pretty much till Tuesday when we got home. I just felt so poorly. And I haven't had a hangover or a consequence of alcohol that bad ever I can think of, to be quite honest. So when I got back into work on Tuesday, and I think I literally like dived in, and it's interesting hearing you talk about you returning from holiday and about that whole idea of actually, are we creating space to get back in? Like, are we giving ourselves the opportunity to just build in slowly, like build it back up to where it was. Because let's be honest, we've just switched off. So like to go from a stop to like a full on start, that's quite hard. That takes a lot of energy to do that, like mentally. But I came back into the workspace on Tuesday and equally felt like I had to face into some challenging conversations, and it totally knocked my confidence. And like I struggled for a few days with my own inner critic as well, like questioning myself, overthinking my approach, overthinking everything I'd said, rereading emails, which I can be guilty of when I'm convinced that I must have said something wrong. Yeah, I like really grappled with it for a few days, and felt pretty crap, to be honest. And I felt crap clearly, you know, because I didn't feel physically very well, and I didn't really feel physically good until probably Thursday. And I think there's some guilt associated with that as well, because I felt this is self-inflicted. I should know better. I'm old enough. Like, was it really worth it in the end if I, you know, have had then paid the price for a week, essentially? And then this whole situation with, you know, my emotional, mental energy. I think when you're feeling physically low, that does affect your emotional and mental state massively, because I just don't think you're as resilient, and you're not as resilient to deal with challenges. And I mean, let's be honest, some of this for me last week as well, and I recognise this, but too late, because you never do when you're in the moment. I was overreacting, but I think I was overreacting because I didn't feel very strong in the first place. And yeah, it really did impact my energy last week. I didn't feel as motivated. You know, I did struggle. I had like specific actions to work on my business, but because my confidence was knocked, I just didn't want to do it. I was just like, and then it affects that spiritual piece, because my why was a bit like, oh, I couldn't give a shit, to be quite honest. And I thought, this is not great. Like, I took a weekend off. It was supposed to be fun. I don't suppose it was ever really with the intent of resting, let's be honest. But it totally undid the rest of my week and made me feel really quite crap. But I also think this is where I'm quite guilty of, and I have found this ever since I've had my own business, that in my corporate career, I took proper time off. I took weeks off. And as a entrepreneur now runs their own business, I take snippets of time off. I'm really not very good. And it's mainly because of how fast paced my life has been in especially the last 12 months. I'm not very good at taking a week off, like a block of time. I take snippets of time off, like long weekends or a weekend, and it's just not enough. Like it's not enough, just full stop. It's not enough. And I've known that for a while now. And then our wedding anniversary weekend just cemented it. I was like, I'm not taking proper time off anymore. I haven't taken proper time off in 12 months. I've worked constantly, and even, yeah, and I've taken long weekends off, and I'm not re-energizing myself properly. Like, it's, yeah, so I need to do something different. But it's just really weird to me that we both had very similar weeks last week, and actually we didn't talk about it, and I didn't know that. But that's normally because I'm like, you don't need to hear again about me having a crisis of confidence, because you hear about it regularly. So it's probably for you, you're probably like, this just sounds like every other week. I don't know what the difference is.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's the reality, I think, of for a lot of people, but also I think when you're in business, you know, I was talking to somebody about this recently. The highs, you get on a roller coaster when you start your own business.
Such a roller coaster, yeah.
Right, it's cliche, but it's true. The highs are high, but the lows are low. Okay, and there's often not many in betweens.
I totally agree.
And I think you feel it harder, whether that's high or low, because it's yours. It's yours.
Yeah.
It's what you've created. You've put your blood, sweat, and tears often and hard work into it. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
We invest a lot of energy in it because we want it. We care. We want to do a good job for our clients and customers. We want to, you know, live our why without sounding cliche. And because otherwise we wouldn't have started it in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's important to us.
Yeah.
And there's no set formula when you run a business. And there's a lot of uncertainties because one month you could be flying and cash flow is strong and you've got a really strong pipeline. And then the next month, that pipeline has fallen away for whatever reason because stuff happens. And that cash flow now looks more shaky than it once did. And you're like, shit, in the nicest possible way, excuse my language. I've got to plug that because I've got, we've got bills to pay or whatever it might be. So, there's a very rawness to, I think, running your own business. I get that there's still that in place if you're employed, still as well, of course, but it's different. And I think that's what it is there's that difference. And I think the impact it takes on your energy is different. And I was actually talking to my husband about this because he's in an employed role. He has a lot of challenges in his role, of course. The difference I have found is that for me, it's because it just all comes down to me and my business. Whereas for him, with his experience and challenges, there's normally like he's got his colleagues to talk to about. He's got a team around him, and there's somebody to bounce off, and they kind of work on problem solutions together a lot of the time. Whereas when you're in your own business, that's gone away. You don't have that often. You might have people to support you, but not in the same extent and in the same way. So actually, your solution creating all of the time, often just you. And that is energy zapping, energy zapping. I have found sometimes, like, more so than maybe when I was employed in my corporate role. It's just different, and it's about trying to recognize it and navigate your way through it. But I think if you're feeling energized, your physical energy is good, you've had good sleep, you've done some good activity, you're eating nutritional foods, you're drinking at least 2 liters of water ideally a day. Like, I'm obsessed with water. Like, I can feel it when I've not drank 2 liters, like, because my body's got used to it. I feel awful, like. And I've been doing that for a really, really long time. Doesn't work for everyone. I've got one of them bottles, it's got the time on it, so it keeps me in check. Your emotional energy, we talk about, like, am I feeling irritable? Am I feeling vulnerable? Am I feeling in a bad mood? Like, have I spent quality time with those I love? Have I done activities that give me joy, make me feel good? Am I appreciating the small things I have in my life? Like, where's my gratitude right now? Those things all build our emotional energy. And builds our resilience, builds our engagement, builds our motivation. So when these kind of setbacks come or these challenges come, we feel less wobbled because we're feeling like strong in terms of our emotional energy. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Which of these particular areas do you think you maintain the best?
Oh, great question. I would say probably great question. I'm finding it really hard. I probably manage my mental energy the best, I think. Don't get me wrong, I have moments where I don't, but probably if I was to look at all 4 of these on a consistent basis, maybe it'd be mental and emotional. I think because I am really focused, although I didn't do this last week, I try and talk to myself in a positive way every day. And I've had to really, really work on that. And that's the thing that I have found has had the biggest impact on my mental energy, is the way I talk to myself. And I have a reminder on my phone at 8 a.m. every morning to say like affirmations to myself, and they are positive affirmations, and I say it every single day, and I've done that for the last 3.5 years, and it's just built up, like it's been a cumulative kind of impact. So I think I do that. That's something I do the most regularly, like And I try and do that every single day. And if I haven't done it, I kind of feel it. Like I can
Mm.
feel it. And interestingly, I didn't do that last week because I was out of habit, because I was out of routine. I was on holiday. I was a bit more free and flexible and stuff like that. And then I came back and that inner critic was so loud. It's probably the loudest it's been for a while, like for a good 6 months, I'd say. Like it was really loud. And interestingly, I hadn't done that. So,
Yeah.
is that linked? Question. I don't know. I probably is.
What
And
about
I
the
think
least then? What's the least, do you think, the out of these that you maintain?
probably my physical energy.
Really? It's interesting you say that, because from an outside perspective, that's not my observation, because I know how much well, in many ways, I know how much you have to focus on maintaining your physical because of your diabetes. And obviously, knowing you as well as I do, we've had many conversations about both of our health over the last, I don't know, however many years we've been friends, but obviously in the last few years, even more so, because we've both had health challenges of some kind. And you're someone who I always think of who's very in tune with their physical health and is very aware of it and works very hard to maintain a level of physical health. So
Yeah.
tell me why you think you may maintain it the least then.
Because I think I could always be doing more.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
That's why. Because I exercise. I could be doing more exercise. I'm very lucky and privileged that I have a personal trainer. I know not everybody can afford that, luxury.
Oosh.
It's an investment in my physical health, and I've decided to invest in that. I do that once a week. I'd love to be able to do that, or do a form of strength training twice a week. And I feel like my lifestyle probably hasn't quite got to that point where I found the right gym class, or I found the right gym to allow me to do that as well. Like I haven't found the right setup, I don't think, to allow me to do more physical exercise. So that's the first thing. I'm not very good at taking breaks. Now, yeah. So I will very easily work all the time if I had no boundaries. I'm a parent now, so that isn't possible. And isn't right. When my first year I had my business, I honestly was awful and I'm still not great. I'm still like work in progress, but I'm not great. I wouldn't ever have a lunch break. I wouldn't ever go out to a coffee shop and have a flat white and work, because I'd get distracted and I wouldn't actually do my work. Like I'm very dedicated to like my work and what I do, and I always want to be like growing, being better. I want to advance what I'm doing. I'm very ambitious, very driven, and I think actually sometimes that can be to my detriment, in the sense that I don't create proactive space for rest and for like allocated breaks, or eating something, making myself something nutritious, right? I'll just be like, there, I've got that in the fridge, I'll just eat that. Yeah. So I think sometimes that's why I think physically I could be better.
Interesting. Yeah. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the breaks piece and the rest piece, because I actually think I'm good at both, but I probably would add to that, I don't think I always authentically do both, because I have guilt associated often when I do it, because I'm thinking I should be doing more, I could be doing more. And I probably have a mindset around what I think good entrepreneurship is. And I've probably picked up things over the course of the last few years of running my own business, as to what's required to be successful in your own business. And there's this idea of, you've got to work hard, you've got to put the hours in, it's got to be difficult, it's got to be challenging. And so I have to admit, there are times when I'll be taking a break, or even when I think it's not challenging, or I'm not being challenged, and I'll be thinking, I'm not doing this very well, or I'm not doing a good job enough, I'm not being a successful entrepreneur. because that's not how I feel, or I'm feeling, or I'm not working all hours. And so I can be quite guilty of that. And it's the same actually of taking breaks and holidays. I know for a fact, I think was it last year or the year before? I think it was the year before now, actually. God, time has just flown. I remember Dom saying, I want to go away for the weekend. I've watched a program about Madrid and I really want to go. And I remember being like, I'm not deserving of this break. I haven't been working hard enough. Like, I haven't worked to it. So I remember going away for this weekend in Madrid, and it was amazing. I had a great time. It was actually my second time I've been, but not feeling fully able to enjoy it. And I actually did do some work while we were there, because in my head, I hadn't worked hard enough to qualify for a break and a holiday. And I remember talking about it with my coaching supervisor, because I'd carried a lot of this guilt. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it, but I didn't switch off, because I just felt I've not earned this. And I can often be a bit like that. I like taking breaks and going away when it's been a goal and a deadline that I've worked towards.
Yeah.
And I've really felt like then when I'm there, I'm deserving of it, and I can really enjoy it. And then I can switch off. But to be fair, I remember feeling like that in my corporate careers. I remember feeling like that if I took time off. It was things like if I took time off too early after the Christmas break, or if I took time off too close together, if you had time, and that would kind of sit with me in those spaces as well. Like, I always felt like I was earning my time off, my rest, which is I don't know whether I agree with it or not. I find it quite motivating, but it's not always very helpful as an approach to rest, I don't think. Like, I've seen a lot in recent times on socials about how, like, you're always deserving of rest. Like, it's not about you have to earn it. Like, it's recognizing it's an ongoing need and a requirement to keep you refueled, re-energized. Like, it's not to be used as a whipping tool, or like you should be able to recognize that actually it's just part of being human, and a healthy human, that you take rest. Like, that's fine. So it's quite an interesting concept, I think, and about that physical health.
I think the narrative's changed since we were growing up, actually, and since we started our early careers around rest. And actually now I think, the benefits of that are now more widely talked about and acknowledged. You raised a really interesting point before, it was around social media, because actually one of the things I've done, which goes back to the one I've kind of probably focused on the most, which on my mental energy, is I've really tried to come back away from social media, because I just found that, like, actually some of the people I was following was not helpful for me around the way that I viewed myself, the way I was talking to myself. I've spent too much time just randomly scrolling, and actually that's just ridiculous. I should be more present, doing more focused things, either working on my business or actually working on myself, working, being present in my family life, whatever it is. I've really backed off social media, and that was conscious. And the way I've done that is I've got this app called Screen Zen. And I've set it up for my social media apps, and it comes up. So if I tap on Instagram on my phone, for example, it'll come up and it'll say, is this important? And it's just a prompt.
To question and challenge yourself as to, like, is this important right now? That's really cool. I've not heard of it. Screen Zen.
Look it up, download it. You can set it up for whatever apps you want. You can set it up for a timer. So, like, I've set it up so I think it allows me into Instagram a certain number of times a day, but it's really low. And then if I go over that, it will, like, tell me. Now, you can still override it if you need to or want to, but it stops me in that kind of, like, unconscious, process of just going into it and then scrolling mindlessly on what's going. Oh, this this person's on holiday again. Oh, I've not been on holiday 25,000 times this year. No, because that's not real life.
God, it's so interesting, and I think it's such a great point to make in this space of maintaining energy. Now, there's going to be some of us who get a lot of energy from the social space. That's great, because we're all different, but I think it's recognizing what tops you up and what depletes you.
Exactly.
And I definitely have to watch my social interactions on social media and how much time I spend there, because if I'm feeling vulnerable, it is the wrong place for me to go. I just find that it just fuels my inner critic, and I go into comparison mode, and it's really not a healthy place to be. And I would say it's true actually, for just consuming information. There's a lot of negative information out there in the world at the moment, because there's a lot not working in the world at the moment. There's a lot of aggression, violence, a lot of negativity. And I think if I spend too much time consuming all of that, it really does not support me in enabling me to have a energized day, because I get overwhelmed by that type of information and I feel helpless. So, and not to mention the fact there's then that triggering of guilt and shame, and just none of the helpful emotions. So I can definitely relate to that. And we talked about that, didn't we, in an episode about digital, and with Sam, who came and joined us on the program. And that was a brilliant conversation about recognizing where the digital world can help us and where it can't, or where it doesn't, and things we can do differently to better interact and utilize it to support us rather than like deplete us, and exactly in this space around energy. So let's move on to top tips then. I think we've probably spoken about a couple already with some very personal experiences and ways in which we manage our energy levels. So what would be your top tips in this space?
So I think the first thing is that this is work in progress. For me, for everyone, we don't always get it right, and you're not striving for perfection in this. You're striving to just maintain. So you think about those 4 individual batteries, you're just trying to strive for topping those up. They will go down, they will go up. That's okay. But it's about recognizing and having an awareness of that. And what tops your batteries up is personal to you. So I think that's my first top tip, is finding what is it that gives you the energy from a physical energy perspective? What is it that gives you energy from a mental energy perspective? I talked about, for me, that's about talking to myself in a more positive and kind way every morning. That might not work for you, that's okay. But trying to understand what it is that you can do to kind of really top up your energy. Someone once said to me, and this is really stuck in my mind on this topic, and it's, what if we recharged ourselves as often as we did our phones? So I'll just leave that there for a second. So actually thinking about that, answering that question for yourself, because that is what we're talking about here in terms of that impact on our performance, and that sustained energy. The better we will feel, our performance will improve, and we will have more motivation. Okay. And that's what the benefit of this is. I think the other thing is, thinking about focusing on those things that give you energy as well. We've not really touched upon this in the conversation, but harnessing your strengths. So focusing on the things that give you energy. Okay. I don't particularly enjoy certain aspects of running my business. I don't enjoy doing my personal tax return. Who does? So actually, rather than trying to do that myself, because I know that is not energizing for me, I actually have an accountant, and I pay for an accountant because I value their skills in doing that. So that doesn't de-energize me then. So you just got to have a think about what it is that gives you energy and maximize that. And then think about what doesn't give you energy, and just think about ways you can do that differently, so you don't deplete yourself over and over and over again, if you can and have the resources to do that. I appreciate. So they would probably be my 3 top tips.
That is brilliant. And I just love the idea of look, start somewhere. I think if you're aware of, if you sit and consciously think about those 4 areas and do your own energy assessment on them, identify the gaps and think about one small thing that you can do to start to change it. Everything starts somewhere. And we're not necessarily talking about big changes. It's just doing something different that's going to help you better. So we'll collate those top tips and we will share them at the end of the show.
It's now time for Bullshit Bingo, where we call out phrases which get commonly used in the workplace, which, quite frankly, make us all cringe. Our bullshit bingo for today's episode came from one of my followers, actually, on LinkedIn. They DM'd me this.
Oh.
And it is disco meetings. Okay. So the explanation of this apparently is it's a discovery meeting. So it's the new phrase coined for blue sky thinking, which has been one of our previous bullshit bingos, actually.
It has. I love the fact that we've gone from having, so now we're now in that realm where one thing has multiple bullshit bingos. Yeah. So blue sky thinking has been replaced by disco meetings. I prefer the newer, upgraded bullshit bingo, to be fair. Disco meetings. Oh, what a time to be alive. I wish that in my corporate career, this had been around. I would have loved to use this. Can you imagine all the fun you could have had saying you're going to have a disco meeting? You would have gone wild for it. You absolutely love to dance. This would have been brilliant. We could have had like a whole nother level of a discovery call or meeting. Or what is a discovery meeting? I don't even know whether I know what that is. What's a discovery mean?
So I think a discovery meeting is when you're like just understanding like the current situation on something. So you're just like, what's going on? Right. So what could be let's discover some of the ideas, like some of the
right. Okay. So just like a brainstorming type session.
Blue sky thinking. Let's be creative. But it's now in the context of a disco meeting, which honestly, you're spot on. I immediately went to like a glittered disco ball.
We would have loved this. If only this phrase had been around. It definitely wasn't. I don't remember us ever having disco meetings.
No, it wasn't, definitely. I've never heard this, in fairness, to be used like
so
in context, but it's so good. And I might start using this with my clients.
Yeah, I feel like this is an energizer, talking about the fact of we've just been talking about personal energy. If someone had said to me, Lisa, just going to put a disco meeting in diary, I would have been like, hell yes.
I'm turning up for that meeting for sure. Like I'd be engaged, motivated, intrigued, energized. I'd be there in an instant. I feel like we should definitely use this more.
Yeah, I feel like, God, it's this maybe the stiff, wooden, grey, stereotypical view of corporate life is changing gradually because they're now talking about having discos. Yeah, I love this. This is so good. Disco meetings. Yeah, sorry everyone. This might be classified as a bullshit bingo, but I think this is of the positive fun kind that actually I would like to use. So this is good.
Cracking. We're going to use more of this for sure. Yeah. Well, CVBs, you know we love a bullshit bingo phrase. So have you got one? Have you heard one? Drop us a DM either on Instagram or Lisa or myself on LinkedIn, and we will include it in a future episode. So remember, when and where you hear those corporate phrases that make you cringe, we need to hear them.
We are coming to the end of today's episode where we've been discussing personal energy. Our top tips and recommendations from today's episode are: number 1, be aware and strive to top up your 4 sources of energy. So those were your physical, your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual batteries, as Suzy offered. So really find out what gives you energy in these 4 spaces and seek to recognize when they're feeling a little bit low and they need topping up. Number 2 is a question, and that is, what if we recharged ourselves as often as our phones? So really consider that analogy and think about when in your day can you be ensuring that you're giving yourself time to recharge and just top up your energy, and potentially think about those 4 specific areas when you do that. So is any one particular area needing a bit of love, a bit of nurturing? Number 3, focus on energy givers. So we did talk a lot about the things that take our energy away, but actually be really conscious as to what gives you energy and how you can maximize your strengths. Because a lot of the time, playing into our strengths, spending time there, utilizing them really helps to give us energy. And lastly, be aware of your energy killers. So those things that really impact negatively, those 4 key areas, and seek to make changes. Remove any energy detractors where you can. As well as our top tips, we've also got some self-coaching questions to ask yourself to support you in this endeavour to maintain and manage your personal energy. Number one is, what signs indicate to you that your energy levels are becoming depleted? Are you aware of your triggers? See if you can think of them. Number two, how do you currently manage your energy throughout the day? Are there anything you could do differently? Number three, what activities or routines help you feel most energized and motivated? And number four, when you've considered all of those questions, what could you do differently? Don't worry if you can't remember these. All of our tips and recommendations and our self-coaching questions will be on our Instagram page following the publication of this episode. And you can find our Instagram page by looking for @thecoachingcast.
We will have another brand new episode for you next month in early August. So you can still listen to us over the summer holidays. So do not panic. You'll still have the coaching cast available in your ears. I'm pretty sure you're not panicking. And CBeebies, look, we know you're busy, but it would mean the world to us if you could rate, review, and subscribe to the coaching cast wherever you listen to your podcast. It takes seconds. It's free to do, and it really helps us. Or perhaps tell one person in your life who you think this podcast might help. Maybe your mate Sarah is struggling with self-confidence. We've got a whole episode on that. Share it with her, pass it on, send them a link or a specific episode. It really can help the podcast grow, and we'll be very, very grateful.
We love to end each episode of the Coaching Cast with our personal song recommendation, giving you energy and motivation as you launch into the next part of your working day. This could be part of how you top up your energy levels, people. Listen to us and also go and listen to our song recommendation. Now, my choice is this week's, and I've chosen a bit of an old one, actually, because I heard it. I actually think I heard it in a retail shop not that long ago. And I was like, what is this? Out comes my Shazam app, because I love to Shazam things to find out the names of songs. And it was this, and it is Gorillaz, and the song's called On Melancholy Hill. Now, I can assure you that the subject of the song does not dictate the tone of the song, because it doesn't sound melancholic to me. It sounds joyful, but that could be just the tune, wherein the lyrics could be quite dark. Who knows? But I recommend it. On Melancholy Hill. It's a tune.
I'm going to go and check it out.
Go check it out. Go check it out. Brilliant, guys. Have a great month. We will be back here in August to keep your holiday time filled with helpful sounds to keep you energized as well as hopefully relaxed. But yes, hope you have a good month. And remember, you've got this.